For more than 2,000 years, sexuality and religion have been inseparable in India. Both men and women have sought unity with the divine through the pleasures of the flesh. The rich and vibrant sensuality found in India's various religions and philosophies can be traced back to its creation myth, which is an erotic blend of nature and sex.
We have this hymn of creation, and there you have the skies and the earth having an intercourse, and it's really done in very beautiful language, very graphic language. It's kind of a cosmic intercourse, and there's all kinds of bodily fluids there. There's the water, and there's the honey, and it's really described beautifully, honey dripping. So it's really kind of this cosmic union. So this is what is in the Indian imagination.
Despite India's many race and class distinctions, spirituality and sexuality remain tightly interwoven.
For the Hindus, sex is something cosmic, something ritualistic, something you just don't do for reproduction, but something for the divine.
Much like the Greeks, the Indians took many of their cues, sexual and otherwise, from their gods and goddesses. While Krishna's Hindu devotees transcended earthly life through passionate love of their god, other prominent religions in India, such as Buddhism, discovered their own unique paths to enlightenment.
Yoni is the womb, it is the female body, it is the fire, it is the source of enlightenment.
There is a school of Buddhism that has this idea that the Buddha resides in the yoni, that sees sex as a way towards enlightenment.
Not all followers of the cherubic god went through the yoni in their search for eternal bliss. Several schools of Buddhist monks and nuns chose a life of celibacy in a monastery.
The original Buddhist monks believed that in order to meditate properly, you had to forego the temptations of the flesh, because that gets in the way of the meditative life.
An existence devoid of earthly delights did not appeal to everyone. In the 3rd century, a pleasurable alternative emerged in Hindu society, with history's most exotic sex manual, the Kama Sutra. Nouveau riche merchants who wanted to define their lovemaking techniques found the Kama Sutra an invaluable aid.
The Kama Sutra shows the idea that sexuality is something that's to be learned, that's to be done in a refined way, that the more you know and the more skillful you are at it, the more enjoyable it will be for both the man and the woman.
Like Hindu society, which believed in the categorization and classification of everything from social class to food, the Kama Sutra provided an extensive inventory of all things sexual. Among the erotic tome's many lists were several types of love bites and scratches, 4 kinds of love, 8 stages of oral intercourse, and 30 sexual positions, some of which might be better left to contortionists. Much like an automobile owner's manual, the Kama Sutra provided solutions for virtually every sexual predicament, even a man's physical shortcomings.
It talks about different techniques of penis enlargement, so that, putting weights on the penis. It sounds kind of horrible, actually, but size counts in the, in the Kama Sutra.
The Kama Sutra proved useful not only in the bedroom, but with the written word as well. Poets often used it as a sexual thesaurus. There might be reference to the ringing of a woman's bells.
The bells were worn as a kind of fashion thing, and so if the girdle bell is ringing, that means the woman is on top, and if the ankle bell is ringing, that means the woman's on the bottom. It's just a way to talk about sex without being too direct.
The Kama Sutra encompassed much more than the secrets of sexual pleasure. It also provided a blueprint for courtship and marriage. With its publication in the 3rd century, the Kama Sutra found a vast audience in India. Among the more avid readers of the sex manual were young, upwardly mobile men, known as Nagarakas.
The Nagarakas were upper-class men who devoted themselves to sexual pleasure and to a kind of refined sexuality.
They are kind of aesthetes, people who know how to perfume themselves and oil their hair and enjoy walking.
In cases where it took more than the Kama Sutra to impress a woman, a Nagaraka enlisted the help of his feathered friend, the parrot.
They would talk to them and try to get them to learn certain phrases. They would want to be witty. They would want what the bird said to represent their aesthetic. Come up and see my parrot.
Teaching the parrots to say dirty words and create a more charged atmosphere. But again, it's a celebration of sexuality and of sexual desire, but also the imperative to be good at it, to learn techniques, to create a more intense experience.
The women most appealing to Indian men were not unlike Barbie dolls in their appearance.
Goddesses were also depicted in this way. It's also an ideal female type. An extremely small waist with full hips and breasts the size of melons, the weight of which actually causes the woman to walk with her shoulders a little bit forward.
In the end, a woman's physical attributes were of little consequence when it came to marriage. In higher castes, marriages were arranged by families, often without the bride and groom having ever met. This was a traumatic period for an Indian bride, who was usually under the age of 12. Once the bride reached puberty, she would move in with her husband and in-laws.
The switch between the natal and the in-laws family, your married family, is a very severe one. I mean, you're a daughter, your parents take care of you, and once you go to your in-laws, that's it. You've broken everything with your natal family. You're really their daughter.
After moving in with her husband, a new bride would often refrain from having intimate relations on her first night with him. Indian literature celebrated the romance of waiting.
In the romantic context, there's much more discussion about longing. This is the great desire to be away from your lover and long for them. A very famous play by playwright Kalidasa is called The Cloud Messenger, and the male lover is looking at the cloud and say, "Please carry my love to my beloved."
Not all Indians embrace such traditional notions of romance and sex. Some elite men and women sought physical pleasure through the breaking of sexual taboos. Beginning in the 6th or 7th century, a philosophy known as Tantra emerged. Tantra, which combined elements of Buddhism, Hinduism, and other religions, broke many of the religious and sexual laws of Indian society.
It was a strain of Buddhism that stressed the idea of achieving enlightenment through sexual pleasure. And again, through a refined kind of sexual pleasure, very intense, so intense that it achieves a kind of spiritual dimension.
The exteriors of various temples throughout India display tantric sex. These stony images could easily be mistaken for a licentious game of Twister.
Some of the imagery is very lewd and very crazy, and they'll show people with these very elaborate sex positions and sometimes physically impossible positions. They'll depict people in things that you go, oh, nobody could do that.
Tantric orgies, in which men and women were supposed to distance themselves from the pleasure of sex, were overseen by mystical gurus.
It was considered to be a very kind of dangerous path that not too many people were able to walk because it was so tricky.
Tantrists often carried out their forbidden sex rituals in the darkened cemeteries of India. This late-night frolicking didn't raise the dead, but it did awaken the sleeping serpent within the participants.
One form of Tantra was the Kundalini. You have this kind of serpentine energy dormant in your own body. And how do you awaken it? So you can do through meditation, through sex, through Yoga practices many ways of kind of energizing it.
In India, even in the present day, there are numerous paths, not only